The greatest failing of humanity is to forget. Last week, we were urged to remember the 5th of November as a betrayal of country. This week's Remembrance Day urges us to remember the sacrifice for country. But we tend to forget what was happening in the Far East, which made the war to end all wars a world war rather than just a European one, and which is the root of an ongoing tension with China. In September 1914, Japan attacked the Chinese port of Qingdao, which had been a German colony since 1897 and is still famed today for its engineering and brewing businesses such as Haier white goods and Qingdao beer. Britain and its allies supported the Japanese takeover. China then contributed 140,000 labourers to the Allies' First World War efforts and were promised that in return they would receive the port of Qingdao back into their sovereignty. But in fact, the Treaty of Versailles affirmed Japanese control. In 1932, Japan began 17 years of brutal imperial expansion across China, and this is what lies beneath today's tensions. And yet, despite Pearl Harbor, the Allies still tend to support the Japanese side over the Chinese, as we did back in 1914. In 1932, Japan began 17 years of brutal imperial expansion across China. This is what lies beneath today's tensions, and yet, despite Pearl Harbor, the Allies still tend to support the Japanese side instead of the Chinese, as we did back in 1914.